I have officially succumbed to the peer pressure of the internet, and I am putting lowering springs on the Mustang. I got it jacked up, but even without it, it's got an enormous wheel gap. These enormous 275s on the front. It's got 315s on the back. You can see where it's been rubbing, and I've already taken the brake caliper off. It's not really a how-to video, because honestly, I don't know how to do it. You can go watch the same videos I watched. This will be my first time doing it. A couple of videos, I'll just say a couple of videos didn't show taking the caliper off. I think the American Muscle video didn't show taking the calipers off. The caliper comes off with like 2 bolts. Just take the caliper off, get it out of your way. I may show a little bit of the process. I'm going to do the driver's side first, see how it goes, and try to learn on that one. And then when I do the passenger side, I may film a little bit more of it to show what I'm doing. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. Wish me luck. All right, we got the driver's side done. I will show it to you, but I'm also painting the calipers. It's like a last minute, hey, just paint the calipers. Because I bought some caliper paint from my old green Mustang, some red, and I was like, let's paint them while they're off. So, going around to the other side. The first side wasn't that bad. I didn't think it went fairly well. These springs are not like super short, so it was a little bit of trouble to get them in. I smarted up on this one. This caliper, I went ahead and cleaned it before I take it off, and so I can paint it too. So let me get. You don't have to take the calipers off. I mean, that American Muscle video, the guy didn't take the calipers off, but it's only 2 bolts, comes right off, just hanging up out of the way. It made everything like super easy. And plus, this knuckle wants to come down when you take these bolts off and take it loose from the shop. The knuckle wants to fall down. So we'll take the caliper off, pull these 2 bolts off, take the sway bar end links loose. I took the ABS sensor wire out of its bracket here to give it some slack last time. I'm not sure I needed it, but it was there. So let's get to it. I'll get that off. I gotta put the jack underneath it, support the A-arm, and then we'll let this thing down real slow. I'll film this one, but on the other one I was cracking the valve open on the jack. As soon as it started to move, I tightened it back up. It probably wouldn't have flung out and crushed my face, but I wanted to make sure, so I went like super slow, and finally it popped out of the bucket there at the end. So let me get some stuff out of the way, and then we'll drop this A-arm down. All right, so I got everything loose. I got 1 bolt left in there. I got the sway bar end link loose. I will give you a piece of advice that I had to do. After I let it down, and when I was coming up, I had to take the bottom. There's a nut under here. I had to take that loose to give me, because this thing, with the bottom nut tight, it doesn't wiggle at all. So I loosened that up, so when I was raising it back up, I could guide that in easier. And then to get this nut out, the bottom one came out, so I take a punch and drive it out. My tripod has come up missing, so it's going to be a real pain in the ass to film everything, so I'm not really going to film everything. I have to order another tripod. I spent like 30 minutes looking all over the shop for it. But of course the shop's a total disaster, so as soon as I order a new one, the old one will turn up. That's usually how it works. So I'm gonna drive this bolt out, and then it's ready to drop down. So I'll probably have to do that on this one too, but on the other one, the steering knuckle wants to fall way down, and what it was doing is, as the jack lowered, it would fall, it would come out and fall towards me, and it wasn't letting, it bottomed out, and it wasn't letting the jack down all the way. It wouldn't let the A-arm come down all the way because it kind of ended up underneath it, and I couldn't hold it up and work the jack at the same time. So I took a piece of wire, same wire I used on the caliper, and kind of tied it up temporarily. So I'll set up a piece of wire to do that too, and then I'll drop it down and hopefully pop this spring right out. The other one on the driver's side came out pretty easy, so I'm hoping this one will. It was actually harder to get the new one in, and it's like an inch shorter than it was to get this one out. Because this one, the other one's stiffer. Had to wait. It took a little bit of effort, but so we're ready. I'll knock that pin out and drop this A-arm down. So this is what I'm talking about. You see, once you take the bolts out, this knuckle falls forward a little bit, and I might put a lug nut back on to make sure the brake don't fall off. But as it come down, it wanted to roll up underneath the A-arm. Anyway, so I tied it up to keep it from doing that. So we're almost ready to roll. Let this thing down. All right, we got it down. We got the spring out of the bucket. So on the driver's side, when I let the A-arm down all the way, the spring released from the bucket on its own. On this one, it did not. I came and I got me a rubber mallet and I whacked on it a bunch of times. It wouldn't come loose. And I had to pry it out. And it popped out kind of hard, but nothing like crazy violent. So let's see if we can't. There we go. And it's out. If you can see, it's got a lot of rust in there in that bucket. And while it was holding it in, I'm reusing these isolators. This top one didn't come out, but you know, I asked on some forums, and most people said they didn't put an isolator back in there. And I said, well, if I can reuse these isolators, I'll put them in. If I can't, then I won't, because I didn't order new ones. You could order new ones. So I put the other ones in on the other side. And I was like, I hope these on this other side are good, because if not, I would have to order some to go in. Anyway, so it's out. I'll take a wire brush, clean that up real good and vacuum it out, and then get the other one back in. But you see what I was talking about with the knuckle? I ended up having to take my wire loose because it wouldn't let the A-arm come down enough to let that thing pop out. But if you were on a lift and had this thing in there, that wouldn't be an issue. But you can see how much it comes down and it wedges against the jack and just kept it from coming down. So I had to pull it up, wiggle the jack. Anyway, it's a whole ordeal. So let me get this all cleaned up and we'll put the new spring back in. All right, I got the spring bucket cleaned up. I got the isolator off the old spring. I had to spray down penetrating oil, break it loose, and then slide it on this one. It was a little bit of a task to get it to keep working it back and forth to get it broke loose off the old spring. We've got it on there. The top isolator, which came off with the spring on the driver's side, is still in there. So I try to work it back in without taking it loose. So to get it back in, I take the pry bar. I had to use 2 pry bars last time. One to like pry up on it, and another one to kind of work it in. I had to get on the floor and get down and dirty. Like I say, I've lost my tripod, so it's a little bit of a challenge to work this one in. Like I say, it's not really a how-to video because I don't really know how, but this is my first time doing it. I'll give you some tricks, some problems I've run into that other videos. People who do them all the time don't necessarily know, you know, they're used to doing stuff and they don't necessarily maybe explain stuff as good as somebody who's doing it for the first time. But so I'm gonna work this into the bucket, and then it's just simple as putting everything back together, jacking up on the A-arm, getting it back into position, bolting the steering knuckle and stuff back on, tightening everything down. So wish me luck. So, of course, because I said it was going to be a real pain in the ass, it went like super easy. It just popped right in, first try. One thing you do have to make sure is you want the end of your spring to end up where the end of the spring was on the other one. The perch, you can kind of see it right there, is offset. You know, it's got a lower spot right there for the last turn of the spring to land. And then, so now we're going to jack it back up, put the jack back under it. I got the loosened up the bottom nut on the sway bar link to where I can guide it into the hole here as it comes up. So now we just jack it back up and put it back together. All right, we got it all back together. I don't know what the torque specs are on this these bolts. I got a Haynes manual at the house. Before I put the rims back on, I might go look. I just tightened the shit out of them with a socket. Takes a 21 millimeter on the back. And I got a 15/16 socket, but it's probably a 24 millimeter nut on the front here. So I just have to drop the jack down, tighten the nut up on the bottom. This sway bar end link has a notch. You can put a crescent wrench on there to keep it from turning while you loosen it and tighten the nuts. And then I'll paint the caliper and get the calipers back on, and then we'll tackle the back. So back's a little bit different, of course. But we'll see how it goes. But this one went relatively easy. I'm pleasantly surprised. So we'll see how she drives and how she sits when we get her on the ground. But we still got to do the back, so stay with me. All right, we're on the back. I got the back jacked up. I got jack under the passenger side. I got floor jack under the driver's side here. Got the rear end jacked up. Here I take the quad shock loose, regular shock. I already took the brackets holding the brake line loose because I'm not going to take these calipers off. Don't really have to, they're not really in the way. I can already tell that my isolator down here is destroyed. So once I pop these out, I'm not going to put the new ones back in. I'm going to have to order new isolators. I don't know if I can get those. I'll probably get up in the morning and go like to Napa and see if I can get them. If I can't get them from Napa, I'll just order them from LMR or something. So I'm gonna do videos I watch people do both sides, and then just drop the whole rear end down. I guess it'll only come down so far, and then we can jack one side or the other up, and help us get the springs out. So I'm gonna try to go ahead and get both springs out today, and then that way when I get the isolators back in, I can just pop the new springs in over there. So wish me luck, let's do it. Okay, I got everything loose, I think, and I'm gonna slowly lower the rear end down if I can. Try to crack, let it drop a little bit. Tighten that back up. I got my poor man's jack over here. This one, I don't know how sensitive it is. There's that, a little bit. I'll go a little bit more with this one. Get this one. This one, the little one's actually more responsive than the other one. More control. This one, I'm worried I got this big block underneath it. I should have maybe put the smaller. It's not gonna let it come down all the way. one's off the jack. That one's off the jack. There it is, she's down. All right, I ended up having to get 2 pry bars. I got one laid up over here across the axle. I'm prying up, and then I'm using this one to pull it out. Like I say, I'm not worried about the isolator. Oh, there she is. She's out. Now I'll just repeat the process on the other side. I'll jack this side up, let that side down. See, the isolator's off. Trash. And then I'll, top ones, I mean, I could reuse it, but if they've got new ones, I'll buy new ones for this. And I'll clean that bucket up some. And then I'll do the other side. So I'm on the driver's side now, and I jacked up the passenger side as high as it will go, higher than I did the driver's side, and it made it looser. And it popped right out, but it popped and it wedged itself. It went back towards the back of the car and it wedged itself against the freaking axle. It's being a real bitch. Try to get out, so I'm just gonna have to keep prying on it and working on it. It's trying my patience, though, I'll put it that way. So I got it kind of popped back into the bucket. Now I'm gonna try to work it out this way. Come on. Don't do me like that, baby. Son of a motherless goat. All right, finally got it. I don't think we tore anything up. So, this one seemed to be in there a lot tighter than the other one. It just didn't want to come out. So you can see there's a little bit of height difference there in these. It's supposed to be, I think, about 1.5 inch drop. So now I have to wait, unfortunately, to get some new isolators. It's about 8:30 at night, so I won't try to get any tonight. But anyway, they're out. It wasn't nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be, so I should have done it a long time ago. But anyway, so we'll get some isolators. We'll slap everything back together and see what she looks like. Well, neither Advance or AutoZone had the isolators for the rear springs, so I had to order them. Just order them from Amazon. They're supposed to be here tomorrow. But in the meantime, one of the pieces is the pinion snubber. They sent a new pinion snubber. It's polyurethane. You have to go up underneath the car and take this bracket out. It's got 3 5/16 screws that hold it in. Take it out. Take the factory one off and put the new one on, which is shorter than the factory one, to let the suspension compress a little bit further. So I went ahead and cleaned it up and painted it. I had that caliper paint. Even though you can't see it, at all. In fact, it's fairly difficult to get to. It's not super difficult, but it's just a pain in the butt to get to. So I'm gonna put this on, and then the isolators will be here tomorrow, and we'll get this thing wrapped up and get it on the ground and see what she looks like. All right, I got one of the back ones in. Ordered these isolators off of Amazon. They're something suspension energy, whatever. You know, people run them without these, but whatever. But so what I had to do to get them in was I put the top one on the spring, and I put the top of the spring in first, and then I left the bottom one out, and I worked the spring in and got the spring in the bucket. And then once the spring was in the bucket, I was able to pry it up and stick the isolator up underneath it. And so they wasn't hard to get in. They're a little bit shorter than the originals, so it kind of popped right in. And so now I'm going to take the jack and jack up this side and go do the passenger side, and then button it back up, and that'll be it. So hopefully next time you see it, it'll be on the ground. All right, well, here's the finished product. I'm taking it for a little drive. It definitely feels like it handles better. I didn't want like a super low drop, and some people look at it and like, oh, it still looks stock, but it's definitely a lot lower. Before I could get my fist in here, no way. I measured it. I'll measure it when I get back. I wanted to let it settle in before I, you know, check the ride height and stuff. But that's it, man. I like it.